excited to kind of transition a little bit. This will be our first talk more in the educational realm and mixing in with math biology, which I know a lot of us are math biology enthusiasts. And so we're very excited to have Brynja Kohler, and she's going to be telling us about community engaged learning in an interdisciplinary math biology course.
Thank you very much to the institution and all the organizers. This is a very big honor to be here, so I'm a little nervous, but very excited to talk to all of you. I know there's a lot of expertise in the room also about teaching, and so this will be more of a discussion, and I'm going to share my story of, I can advance my slide, there we go, of teaching a mathematical biology course with a community engaged learning model. Community engaged learning is something that anyone can do at any university or high school campus. It integrates meaningful community engagement with instruction and reflection to enrich the learning experience, teach civic responsibility, and strengthen communities. Students apply their knowledge and skills gained through their courses in the real world, in their communities. I'm fortunate at Utah State University to have a center for community engagement, and they are wonderful. They do a lot of the work of actually contacting local organizations. They manage letters of agreement and then help us as faculty make connections with community partners in order to set up community engaged learning projects in our courses. It's very important for our center that community engaged learning is authentic and that it relates to the course material and that it involves and teaches teamwork, communication, and critical thinking in addition to the course content that the instructor may be intending. Our institution supports a CEL course designation. So if you apply for CEL status, then the transcript will reflect that this was a community engaged learning course. And as I said, the center provides support for instructors. So it's not volunteering, it's meaningful engagement. It's not just like volunteer hours tacked on to your social science course, but there's projects where you're expected to, each student is supposed to do a project and have a deliverable at the end of the day. And it's also important to get the CEL designation that there's reflection time structured so that students have time to recount their experience, to communicate with the community partners and the public about what they have learned. So I'm going to tell you about the institution and the course. Utah State University is a land grant Research One university with a main campus in Logan, Utah, and 30 statewide sites. We have about 29,000 students, mostly undergraduates, and mostly in Logan. The statewide campus students, graduate students and undergraduates, is only about 4,000 of our total students. So the majority of our students are undergraduates at that Logan campus. We have a strong reputation for undergraduate research. 2025 is our year of undergraduate research, so we're celebrating that, which means that we also have, institutional resources to help bring students into research, which is also handy if you can take advantage of it. But we do have non-competitive admissions, so unlike some other institutions, pretty much anyone who applies in the region, graduated high school, or even some that didn't, are accepted to our institution. And then we have great advisors who try to lead them on their paths to their dream careers. We're a top employer in the state, and we generate billions to the economy. As of June 30th, we had 8 academic colleges And I was in the College of Science. I was an associate dean of undergraduate studies there and also professor in the Department of Mathematics and Statistics. But then a lot of things have happened. So starting July 1st, the Utah State University, well, there's a lot of things happening at a lot of levels, and I'm sure many of your institutions are also impacted, but with a legislative mandate and millions of dollars of budget cuts, not just Utah State University, but all the public universities in our state were mandated to restructure. And we have more than ever, by government mandate, needed to work with the legislature in order to hopefully get some money back that they're cutting away from our budgets. So there's been people getting laid off and colleges have now collapsed. So I'm Associate Dean of Undergraduate Programs in the new College of Arts and Sciences. If we can, well, actually we have the legislative work done already to start a Center for Civic Excellence, but that's a big unknown at our institution of what that's going to do to the general ed and all our concurrent enrollment programs. But it will go on, and I'm confident something good will happen. I don't know, or at least something not terrible. There's been other colleges that have collapsed, like College of Science used to have a strong relationship with the College of Natural Resources, and the Natural Resources has now gone to agriculture, and the College of Education is splitting its human services out, and there's going to be some sort of new school of public health, which will probably transcend these academic colleges. But I don't want to bore you with the institutional structure. I'm merely introducing that context to say, to give you a little idea of what the history is at our institution. And now I want to transition into the history of teaching mathematical biology. So we have a strong math biology group at our department, mainly focused on ecological things. We have an ecology center in the College of Natural Resources and the College of Science that invites and brings in lots of experts. And we've had for many, many years, since I started at Utah State in 2004, this applied mathematics and biology course, which is dual listed in the biology department and the math department. And it's a junior level 4,000 or senior level mathematical biology modeling course. My colleagues, Jim Powell and Jim Hafner, designed the course to be fully project-based learning experience. And they created several modeling experiences in that course that were data-driven so that students could gather their own data and create models. But our enrollments were really low. The prerequisites for the course were linear algebra and differential equations, so we'd get some math majors. We would entice them to take this course towards the end of their program. Or if students had come through biology and taken theoretical ecology, we could kind of convince them to come into this course. But in general, like the course would run with maybe 6 to 12 students each time, and it really wasn't serving a broader population. So I've been thinking a lot about that vision. Like, we would love for all our students to come into mathematical biology with a differential equations and linear algebra background, and then we could do really cool modeling projects with them. But most of our students, especially our biology students, are coming in to the university, and their first struggle is placing into college algebra. And then they need to take trigonometry as a prerequisite for their physics requirement for the biology major. And then we have a couple of calculus options, and they have to take statistics. Like the calculus options and the statistics options are the requirements for the biology major, but there's also an intro-level statistics that doesn't count to the biology major. So there's all this complexity of, like, you come in as an incoming student, you may not have good math skills. Where are you going to get started with your biology degree? And there's kind of barriers that you confront. So we're working on it. There's been a team of quantitative biologists, math biologists who've met to discuss the curriculum and try to make changes. But as an administrator, I realize all the complexity and contingencies of changing around courses and prerequisites, and it's a mess, or it's hard. But we have moved what used to be our business calculus, I'm sorry, that calculus techniques course serves mostly our biology and natural resources majors. So we've moved to a modeling life curriculum that has been written about. UCLA has Alan Garfinkel and co-authors have written about this approach to an introductory life sciences course that kind of puts dynamical systems up front. And in some institutions, it has a calculus prerequisite. In other institutions, it doesn't. For our case, it would be a college algebra prerequisite, but not trigonometry. It's a little silly, but we'll see if that works. And actually, we've been teaching it for 2 years, and it seems to be working really well. So we're trying to broaden out who is going to be able to take and actually get meaningful credit for that kind of introductory modeling life experience. We've also integrated modeling projects in our Calculus 1 course, and Sarah Bogan is going to be presenting one of the papers we wrote together on doing that. And that's a traditional Calc 1. We have the traditional Calc 1, 2, 3. We have College of Engineering. We're like mostly serving engineers. But our biology students and computer science students are scattered into those courses as well. And I'm not going to talk about statistics, but. So then in the upper division levels, we have a computational biology course that's a requirement. And Sarah Bogan, again, knows more about this course as she taught it at one point. We have computational biologists in the biology department that invented this course. It's got kind of an omics focus, and there's a lot of R coding and that's incorporated into the course, and statistics. Again, Sarah's the expert on that one. Meanwhile, Noelle Beckman and I invented this quantitative modeling of life. We actually called it complexity in life, modeling social and environmental systems. And our intention was to not have all those prerequisite barriers, but hopefully have a way after calculus to invite students to get involved in mathematical modeling meaningfully. And then there's another, so right now we have a lot going on. There's another course, Introduction to Dynamical Biological Systems, that another biology professor is teaching, which is like a second semester of that modeling life experience. So there's options, but the computational approaches to biology, we can't offer it all that often because of faculty limitations on time and expertise. And so for the complexity in life course, we're only offering it every other spring. And it goes every other spring on odd springs, while that one that requires linear algebra and differential equations goes every other spring in even springs. So we're hoping to actually draw students into meaningful modeling experiences, and hopefully maybe even interest in career, and joining our research teams in these areas. So I'm going to jump now to the curriculum resources that we use in the course. I'm going to hurry. But yeah, so we decided to use, this is weird because it has a calculus prerequisite, but we're using as our assigned textbook this college algebra level book by John Little that's modeling and data analysis and introduction with environmental applications. And that provides readings and homework exercises that our students. But then it is moderately project-based. I mean, it's mostly a project-based course. And the modeling projects all come from other sources that Noelle and I were acquainted with. The modules project, Mathematics of Doing, Understanding, Learning, and Educating for Secondary Schools, is what Ricardo and Cynthia and I, and Will, we all worked on the modeling modules there. So many of our modeling lessons come from those materials. Some of them also come from the laboratory experiences in mathematical biology that were those data-driven modeling opportunities that came from our Math Bio course. And then Noelle participated in some training with the National Socio-Environmental Synthesis Center, and they have lovely case studies, lessons where people around the country are doing interesting socio-ecological modeling in their classes. And so we use some lessons from there. All right. So these are the titles of the modeling lessons that the students engage in throughout the course. Like picture, it's one of these active learning classes, so there's tables around the room. We would love to have up to 50 students enrolling, but our first year of running it, we had 8, and and then it got approved as a real course. And this last time we ran it, this past spring 2025, we had 20 students, and they were awesome. So we have this big active learning classroom with space for 60 students, but we only have 20 in little tables around the room. At any rate, their majority of their course grade comes from doing math modeling reports around these 8 lessons and topics. And then a big part, instead of a final, is this community engaged learning project where they're working with community partners. So I'm going to just kind of blitz through a few slides that show you, to give a little picture, but you are experts, of what these modeling lessons might look like. The pain medication problem that comes from the modules project has as its objectives, gives students the opportunity to model the nature of the decay process as medication leaves the body. Students consider assumptions, various treatment plans, and initial dosages to create a model that best fulfills the need of the patient. And they create and use programs, technology to visualize their modeling results and graph their functions, and then they write a modeling report. All right, so the textbook has some support for this and like specific instructions for using Excel spreadsheets to create difference equations that makes it approachable for a lot of people who aren't, just ready to write down quick equations, but to take a discrete approach and then kind of build up models. The textbook continues with this discrete approach as you go into systems modeling. And again, we try to get the readings to follow the actual experience. We give them the modeling prompts, let students sort of grapple and struggle and come up with their ideas, and then we'll point them to some readings from this textbook that shows some discrete dynamical models that help them make more sense of the problems they're doing. And as I said, they do some data gathering. This is from what's called the Marshmallow Lab in the laboratory experiences for mathematical biology, where they're kind of doing a Holling's disk experiment, and a predator is seeking prey, and then we develop and derive the type 2 functional response curves. And they use their own data and some simulations with NetLogo in order to make sense and understand that functional response. And the socio-ecological or socio-environmental system, an example of that, they're given a scenario where there's a farm with rabbits that are attacking their crops and also messing with their irrigation systems. And the students in this course need to write out a diagram and include, do some deep thinking about what environmental and social systems are impacted by this situation, and identify what disciplinary approaches might come from different groups. So this is a preparation for doing team science with a lot of collaborators. So ultimately, the teams come up with kind of stock flow type diagrams, and then they can translate those into equations. And Noelle and I provide some R code or NetLogo simulations where they can continue to play and explore. All right. Now, I'm very proud of the CEL projects and my students' results, but, and this is a nice thing that the center does this public display. So all of these students' posters get published. In order to make sure they have support along the way, we give them a timeline at the beginning of the course and make sure that they're talking to their project teams and developing ideas, months in advance, working on different things as we're doing the math modeling, assignments and and homework. And then in April, they have this final presentation. And so I'm just going to read the titles of the students' posters. Modeling Motorized Personal Transport for Physically Disabled Individuals. This group was working with another engineering group at the university. White River Russian Olive Removal Project, east of Bonanza Bridge in Vernal, Utah. This group was working with the Utah Conservation Corps and looking at an invasive species. Predicting trail usage in peak summer months around Stokes Nature Center. This is very close to Logan campus, beautiful trails up through the mountains. And they had these great data of trail usage from counters. And our students were analyzing that data to help the Stokes Nature Center figure out optimal hours of opening and stuff.
And it's Stokes.
Yeah, Stokes. Exactly. That's why I brought it here. Thank you. The Utah Conservation Corps was also concerned about their usage of fossil fuels. And so they gave us data about their different projects. And our students were looking at how much gasoline costs were impacting their projects. And then this was a favorite, but we didn't have the data for the Zootah, the local zoo, was having a muskrat invasion. And so we had to do more theoretical models and some NetLogo simulations. But they were trying to model the muskrat population in Zootah. I also like this one, actually, because we all need to spend more time in landfills. Just look at it. But this group worked on class 1 waste in the Logan landfill and population growth of Cache County. So there were other groups. That's like sometimes 2 groups would work at the Stokes Nature Center thing, and they would kind of take a different angle on the project. All right. We're out of time. So I'm just going to give you my own takeaways from doing this experiment. And the students' experience was authentic. It was in their, we did pre and post tests, which graduate student Bertha Nekwaye is analyzing. But the general thing is that the students increase their appreciation. They have more confidence in just trying something, just writing some math down and feeling okay with it. They enjoy working with the teams, and they taught each other technical skills. Like someone would know how to do this in Excel, and someone else was like, I can do this in R. And that kind of team technical skills was really thought to be useful. Some projects really aren't that great. They're working, they're trying things. And if we had more resources, we did have 2 faculty members and a graduate TA for 20 students. If we had more resources, we could really do rough draft and improvements. But you know what? We just tried it. It's good. It's fine. We'll keep going. And from our last class, one of the students was like, I want a biomath minor. And so he was early enough in the program. A lot of them were seniors or juniors, and so they were just finishing up. But he was early enough in the program to be like, oh, more math. I'm so excited. So this is the part I'm going to skip over. But there is extensive research on the benefits of teaching mathematics through mathematical modeling. And when I was recently at the Modeling First Calculus workshop that Jennifer Choker and Brennan Kelly and others were working on in UC Santa Cruz, she provided this nice summary of the reasons that teaching mathematics through modeling is beneficial. So I'm just going to breeze over this, but I would refer to my colleague, Cynthia Anhalt, who's also an expert at this research literature. And I just want to share my closing thoughts, which is that society has a big problem. There's negative perceptions and misconceptions about mathematics and science. And there's a disconnect between the mathematics that people experience in schools and the mathematics that we do and know and love. So my solution, or our solution, I think, as a community, and I think there's a lot of energy in this area, is to do more. It takes energy, but in and out of the classroom, if we can provide opportunities for people to engage in, understand, and appreciate math and science, and be empowered to know that mathematics and science can actually improve their own communities, then we can accomplish this goal. So here's the action items. If you're interested, these are sort of things that came through my email recently. I don't know if they're going to change the world, but Dave Kung has an open letter out there right now and invited, sent it to a bunch of MAA groups and other people. And if you believe that all students would benefit from increased exposure to a broader range of mathematics, including statistical reasoning, mathematical modeling, computational reasoning, and data analysis, then you're welcome to follow this QR code link and sign on David Kung's letter. Another upcoming activity that you could engage in and potentially reach out to more people is this National Center for Science and Civic Engagement is hosting a free screening of Counted Out. And I would invite you to watch this, join the discussion, and maybe communicate with advisors at your institution or other curriculum folks at your institution about how can we change perceptions and change this equation to be counting more people in. As I think you all know, Ricardo Cortez has really championed this inclusion and inclusivity in mathematics. So I think that's all I have to say. Again, my partners in this course were Noelle Beckman and Bertha Nikwaye. Thank you all so much for your attention.
No question. In the first few slides, you show that QL and QI. What does that stand for? Sorry.
Yeah, no. So that's the quantitative intensive and quantitative literacy course designation. And for general ed, we're not really sure how all this is going to work, but there are certain courses where you get quantitative literacy credit to fulfill general ed requirements. And then you also, almost every major needs a quantitative intensive course. And right now, those are spread around the university. And we have QL designations for lots of different math classes because some programs require, not getting through college algebra, just some basic algebra skills. Other programs require that typical traditional calculus. And our Center for Civic Excellence is going to be working on a more cohesive program. And I think we have that challenge of really evaluating prerequisites and barriers and trying to create pathways for students so that these general ed requirements aren't difficult to fulfill.
Another quick question is, do you have any programs to approach like younger kids, high schoolers?
Yes. Wow. I love doing that stuff. I know Cynthia Anhalt is going to be talking more about projects that she's doing, but and ways to engage K-12. But I will, I guess I need to share this separately to the Zoom audience. I'm just going to share my own NSF funded project in data science and mathematical modeling. We have a partnership and teachers in rural communities that we work with to provide lots of professional development teacher workshops, to provide hands-on learning experiences for students. And they have something called a STEAM Expo, integrating STEM and arts in rural areas that are adjacent to Native American reservations and communities. And that's really a lot of fun. We also work a lot with our local school districts in Logan.
It wasn't targeted.
What's that?
This grant
This-
wasn't targeted.
Nobody's canceled it yet. We did have some, well, anyway, the NSF has reached out politely to make sure that our program aligns with their current priorities. And we are working on that. And this is data science and mathematical modeling for all. So we're trying, well, anyway, let's talk about that.
So how difficult was it to organize and recruit all of these community partners for the cell activities?
Okay, well, that's where I'm grateful for Nelda. And Nelda is our CEL Assistant Director, our Community Engagement Center partner. So we have this person at the university who's reaching out to these organizations. Like I go to the Stokes Nature Center for programs all the time, watch the stars, go for a hike with your family and little kids. But she's working with them to say, do you have data and can you work with this class? And then she brings those connections to us. So we had some meetings with her. She came to talk to our students about what community partners were possible. And then Noelle and I kind of picked what things we'd want to work on. So they have a faculty advisor, community partner to work with.
Any other questions?
I have a quick one.
Oh,
Dave Kong's letter, who is it addressed to?
I don't know.
No, I mean, like, who's the who needs to read this letter?
That's what I don't know. I mean, honestly, it's a Google file. And
Is it addressed to legislatures? Is it addressed to
think-
university administrators?
I think it's a little bit more towards university administrators because we need to review our curriculum and make sure that not just university administrators though, but like school. I mean, there's a lot of effort coming out of the Dana Center, sorry, in Texas, where we want to see more data science and math modeling, but there's been battles by school and policy leaders about whether or not that's a good idea. And so there's sort of the traditional versus here we want to get with the modern times curriculum efforts, and it's a complex issue.
Other questions? Okay, thank you again.